Hi, my name is Kim. I'm a freshman and this is my POL. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience with this project throughout the year. I will be talking about my engagement, my purpose, what I had in mind when I started, how is this helping me outside of school, and the attitudes and actions I developed during this process. The first thing I want to talk about is my engagement during this project so far. In this image, you can see different levels of engagement, and the level I was at was avoiding. I'm pretty sure most of us didn't really know what we were going to be working on, and we mostly just care about our grades. This is very common because we're used to focusing only on grades and doing what others ask us to do. But when someone asks us to create our own project without giving us instructions to follow, it can be very confusing. Even though we were doing some work, it was mostly just for the grade. This is why my level of engagement was avoiding. I was avoiding work because I didn't understand what I was supposed to do without clear directions. Also, the fact that this project was going to last the entire year, unlike my other classes, made it feel much more overwhelming. As time went on, days turned into weeks and weeks into months. I still didn't fully understand what I was doing. At that time, I didn't find any purpose yet, and that made it a lot harder for me to stay engaged. This leads to my purpose. Even when I had some work finished, most of it felt simple and wasn't something I thought anyone would care about. I remember a presentation was coming up and I had to write more things about my project. On the day of the presentation, I saw that other people had already new ideas for the one they wanted to show, but I didn't. Some of the projects were really good and I was surprised by the effort they put in. Because of that, it became harder for me to stay motivated. Even when I finally had a project, I still didn't know if I liked my topic because I kept thinking about changing it. Then, exhibition night was approaching. The night where we present our projects and everything we've learned. I had some options for what to show, but I didn't know what to say about my work. I had ideas for a new project than the one I already had, but that would mean start everything over again and losing what I already had done. One of the ideas that I liked was thinking about my future and the things that I wanted to achieve. This inspired me to combine my original project with these new ideas. It made me realize that maybe my purpose all along was to simply find one. On exhibition night, I was nervous because I didn't know if people would like my project. When I got there were so many people walking around and asking students questions. I decided to stay at my table so people would come and see my work. I'm sure people took a lot of pictures, but I didn't see them, and that's why I can't show them right now. I spent like 2 hours there talking to people that came to my table, and I enjoyed talking to them. After it was done, I went home and thought a lot of everything I had done. I realized how much time I had wasted thinking about doing other things instead of putting real effort into my project. After this, an opportunity came up and that could really help me with my future. In my email, I sent an invitation for a program where I might get to college for 2 weeks. I wanted to go to this college and have new experience, so every time I could go, I would. So every time I would go with my counselor and talk about this program. Part of the application involved writing a 1,000 word essay. At first, I had no idea what to write about, but then I decided to write about this project. I wrote about how this felt more like a real life experience than just a school assignment, and how it helped me learn the things that not many people get to learn. This program is about learning new things, imagination, critical thinking, and problem solving. This is important because all of these things this program teaches are things that I have already learned through this project. Learning new things represents when I decided to combine my project with new ideas to gain more interest. Imagination represents when I had to imagine creative ways to show my work at exhibition night. Critical thinking represents when I had to think about how to create this video so people will understand my new mindset. Problem solving was when I had to discover my purpose and fix all the small things that were turning into bigger problems. All of this adds up and shows how I've learned new attitudes and actions. The attitudes I developed are mindfulness and gratitude. The way I learned mindfulness is because at first I had to understand my motivations, actions, and reactions, and by learning that I knew how to express the new mindset that I got. I also had to learn gratitude because I learned something outside myself and it helped me with different discoveries. The actions that I learned are flexibility, adaptability, and intrinsic motivation. As a result, I learned that I could combine different ideas without having to start everything over again. I learned flexibility by knowing I could modify my project and the way I achieve my purpose can change. There is intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation, but I believe that I learned intrinsic motivation because at first I only wanted a good grade, but now I see that isn't just about the grades, it's about the effort I put in. Even when it's something small, it still counts and has values. To finish this video, we have to look back at everything. I realized that this whole process wasn't really about the project itself, but about how I handled it. When I started this class, I thought the work would be like in my other classes. They would just give us instructions to follow, and once we learned them, we would just move on to another topic. But at some point, it stopped being about a school assignment and it started being about something else. About how I decided to increase my level of engagement, not just for a better grade, but for a better understanding about how things work. I'm glad I took life design in my freshman year because now I could improve the way I see my next year of high school. This is something that could make an impact on my life outside of school. At the end, the only thing that mattered was that maybe my first purpose was to find one. Thanks.